shut down, and that is why the building is closed?
Well, we were advised by the attorneys to close the building. The building shouldn't be open. The risk is great.
I think they take this serious. I think it's a big game to them, and they don't understand that the more confusion and the more back and forth that we do, no one suffers but the people.
Imagine a courtroom drama mixed with a high-stakes soap opera, and you'll start to understand the spectacle that transpired under the leadership of Tiffany Henyard, the self-proclaimed super mayor, as the most recent chapter in Henyard's contentious political career. It was a meeting unlike anything Theron Township residents had ever witnessed, with heated yelling, finger-pointing, dramatic walkouts, and accusations flying in all directions. This meeting left the township's already uncertain future in disbelief and the trustees extremely frustrated. In the midst of a precarious situation, let's examine what specifically happened in this remarkable episode. From the moment the meeting was called to order, there was an unquestionable tension in the room that was nearly as thick as a knife. Henyard spent months at the center of controversy due to allegations of poor management, corruption, and extravagant spending. Without wasting any time in establishing a combative tone, she attacked township trustees with harsh criticism, accusing them of being careless and neglecting their responsibilities. She made harsh accusations of previous no-shows in her venomous statements. The tone swiftly changed from tense to chaotic as Henyard escalated the exchanges with outright name-calling, abandoning any semblance of professionalism for many attendees. It was a stunning display of political theater, with one attendee clearly frustrated, comparing the meeting to an old-school wrestling showdown complete with dramatic entrances, over-the-top rhetoric, and theatrical monologues delivered with gusto. For those who have been following Henyard's turbulent tenure, the description seemed appropriate, but this wasn't just government. Although the show was entertaining, it had significant ramifications for the township's administration and stability going forward. However, for some, it merely brought to light more profound questions about whether local government was acting in the best interests of the community or degenerating progressively. As trustees retaliated against Henyard, a number of them denied her allegations of absenteeism and charged her with dictatorial leadership, misusing township funds, and putting personal grudges ahead of the community's welfare. Fingers pointed across the room as yelling fits broke out. Henyard seemed unconcerned by the chaos surrounding her and doubled down on her criticisms, framing herself as a warrior fighting against entrenched opposition determined to block her efforts to serve the community. The embattled mayor accused the board of undermining her leadership at every turn, portraying herself as a victim of those efforts. At one point, a trustee stormed out of the meeting, slamming the door behind them as frustrated residents gasped audibly. Planned assaults by those who are trying to undermine her, she once said, "If you won't do your job, I'll do it for you." This statement both inspired her supporters in the audience and drew harsh criticism from those who saw it as a sign of her unbridled authority. Throughout the evening, the meeting veered off course, touching on topics like alleged financial mismanagement, missing deadlines for township initiatives, and alleged misuses of township funds. She was criticized by her detractors for extravagant spending that they considered frivolous and tone-deaf to the needs of a community dealing with deteriorating infrastructure, delayed public services, and a growing sense of disillusionment among residents. Public safety concerns were also raised, with allegations that township resources had been diverted to support Henyard's personal security details at the expense of more comprehensive safety measures. As the hours passed, it became evident that the meeting would not result in many concrete resolutions, but rather appeared to further sharpen the divisions that have existed in the township since Henyard's ascent to power. Both sides were firmly established in their positions, and Henyard continued to. She presented herself as a leader who refused to give up when faced with difficulties, but her detractors believed she lacked responsibility and used the meeting exemplified everything that was wrong with the current state of Thornton Township's government: unclear leadership, a lack of clear direction, and a hostile atmosphere that left trustees in a state of distrust, leaving frustrated residents without answers and Henyard defiant as ever. By the end of the night, residents and attendees were clearly exhausted by the constant back and forth.
Henyard was not at the hearing here today, neither was her attorney, and she was not made available for a...
Beyond politics, Thoron Township is dealing with a growing crisis that is affecting vital community services. Because the township hasn't had insurance since December 1st, both residents and staff are at risk. This lack of coverage could cause major disruptions by stopping essential programs like elder transportation and after-school programs for kids. At a heated township meeting meant to resolve the matter, no agreement was reached. Instead, the gathering turned chaotic, with accusations and blame flying everywhere. Mayor Tiffany Henyard did not hold back in accusing the trustees of negligence, claiming that their repeated failure to show up for previous meetings had caused the township's insurance renewal to be canceled. As her passionate plea was delivered, there were echoes of frustration and defiance. She urged residents to speak with their trustees directly and demand action, saying, "You all should reach out to your trustees because they are not doing their jobs." Her words echoed through a tense room, but Henyard's detractors quickly fired back, with trustees like Chris Gonzalez refuting her claims with their. Henyard's own scathing charges that she was using the insurance crisis as a political tool to influence the board to support her personal agenda. Gonzalez did not hold back when asserting that Henyard's approach to the matter was not only ineffective, but also purposefully polarizing in order to strengthen her power rather than meeting the needs of the community. The discussions became increasingly heated with voices, escalating tensions and turning the discussion into what many call the counting match that ultimately produced no workable ideas. Not only did the spectacle expose the dysfunction in the township's leadership, but it also heightened the citizens' annoyance and fear as they saw the crucial services in their community hang in the balance as the meeting came to an end. Revealed that there were significant gaps and mistrust between Henyard and the trustees, which were impeding any significant advancement. The trustees accused Henyard of leveraging her power to promote political gamesmanship, despite the fact that she presented herself as a leader. Under Siege's best efforts, she had to negotiate a tempest of opposition and inaction during what ought to have been a meaningful conversation about how to stabilize and obtain insurance. Township. Operations instead turned into a battleground for political and personal grievances, leaving those who depend on township services in a state of uncertainty with no end in sight. Residents and staff alike are wondering if the township's leaders will be able to put the needs of the community ahead of their differences. For the time being, the insurance crisis is similar to the larger. Since frustration has been expressed and tensions in Thoron Township have not been resolved, the stakes are expected to continue to rise, guaranteeing that this problem and the disputes that are causing it will continue to dominate the township's political drama for some time to come.
It's the right way. Illegal.
Trust Chris Gonzalez, who was once Henyard's closest friend and the person who had nominated her for the township supervisor position, but is now one of her harshest critics, was at the center of the storm at the center of the nearly 3-hour-long township meeting, which turned into a turbulent saga of high drama, bitter accusations, and broken alliances, showcasing the deep dysfunction within Thoron Township under Tiffany Henyard's leadership. His alignment with State Senator Napoleon Harris, Henyard's most formidable political rival, added a potent layer of tension to the proceedings, signaling an unquestionable rift that symbolized the larger chaos. Visibly upset about losing to Harris in the Democratic caucus for township supervisor, she engulfed the township Henyard and made scathing accusations that her opponents were plotting to undermine her leadership. "This is all about control," she declared to the room, her voice echoing with a mixture of defiance and frustration. "They can't beat me, so they're trying to block me at every turn." Her statement captured the personal stakes of the ongoing feud, transforming the meeting from a discussion of governance into a battle for power and influence. In the meanwhile, Gonzalez retaliated with a criticism of Henyard for the township's deteriorating dysfunction, and doubts about her goals reinforced Waddy's conjecture about his aims and emphasized the extent of their political fallout. According to some township watchers, Gonzalez's expanding partnership with Harris was a planned attempt to gain more political clout. Others countered that his change of heart stemmed from sincere dissatisfaction with Henyard's leadership style, which many have characterized as unpredictable and autocratic. One township employee said, "I probably regret ever nominating her." Supporters of Henyard were quick to defend her after witnessing the heated exchanges, calling Gonzalez an opportunist who was taking advantage of her current difficulties. They claimed that Gonzalez's separation from her camp and alliance with Harris was a cynical attempt to take advantage of the weaknesses in her administration, characterizing him as more focused on his own political gain than on serving the township. This mutual animosity was publicly displayed, with each side hurling verbal barbs that highlighted the deeply shattered state of township politics. People, as well as a clear representation of a government paralyzed by its own internal strife, Henyard accused Gonzalez and the trustees of deliberately undermining her efforts. Her detractors framed her leadership as divisive and self-serving, citing unresolved issues such as the township's ongoing insurance crisis as proof of her ineffective leadership. What should have been a fruitful conversation about the future of Thoron Township turned into a blame game, with neither side willing to compromise. The widening rift between Henyard and Gonzalez also revealed a more general question regarding the future of Henyard's in a town. Although her support has remained devoted due to her defiance and venomous words, she has also become politically isolated by alienating important partners and stakeholders. However, some residents speculated that Gonzalez's alliance with Harris could be a sign of a more significant political upheaval, while others saw his criticism of Henyard as a betrayal of the voters' trust in him and the personal nature of their relationship. Tensions have been heightened by the feud, turning the township government into a platform for power struggles and personal grudges as opposed to efficient governance in the interim issues like the unresolved insurance crisis, which jeopardizes vital services like senior transportation and after-school programs, are just two examples of the fallout from this public dysfunction that continues to directly affect residents. The township's ability to concentrate on solutions appears to be deteriorating as political rivalries and accusations and counter-accusations dominate the agenda. Out of reach, the more these conflicts continue, the more the township's reputation and citizens' faith in their elected officials suffer. Thornton Township is at a crossroads in this unstable political environment, with its leadership involved in conflicts that appear to be more about gaining personal power than the common interest. It is unclear if Henyard can weather this storm and hold on to her job, or if her detractors, emboldened by coalitions and mounting dissatisfaction, will be able to change the township's political course. The political intrigue and personal grudges at play make it obvious that the Thoron Township saga is far from over.
In Thornton Township and in Dalton, except in one case, Tiffany Henyard wants on a ballot, while in another, a Henyard ally was looking to keep her up.
Under Tiffany Henyard's leadership, the main source of conflict in Thoron Township is trust, or the conspicuous absence of it, between Henyard and the Board of Trustees. Henyard hasn't held back when accusing the trustees of purposefully impeding progress, portraying them as saboteurs whose only goal is to damage her reputation. She has used their refusal to attend important meetings as an example, saying during a contentious recent session that they're sabotaging me because they know I'm standing up for the people. Her claims are direct and audacious, but the trustees contradict her, claiming that one trustee said in private that her leadership style is the real obstacle, characterizing her as controlling and unreceptive to criticism. She believes she knows everything, and if you disagree, she will just accuse you of being against her. This stemmed because of dynamic. There is a culture of extreme mistrust and never-ending strife where even small decisions can turn into fierce conflicts. As a result, the township is trapped in a never-ending cycle of deadlock, and governance is crippled by a toxic climate. The heated tone of these sessions highlights a deeper dysfunction that goes beyond simple personality conflicts. The FBI's ongoing investigation into the Henyard's administration, which focuses on Al's financial mismanagement, has raised red flags about missing funds, unexplained expenses, and the use of taxpayer money for dubious purposes like luxury trips. Henyard has vehemently denied any wrongdoing, framing the probe as part of a coordinated attack to discredit her. But hovering over all of this dysfunction is the specter of a breakdown in the township's leadership's ability to collaborate for the good of the community. However, the ongoing controversies surrounding Henyard serve as a clear indication that Thoron Township is in dire need of new leadership. The FBI probe, along with the ongoing drama within the board, paints a picture of an administration characterized by instability and mistrust. She has described the investigation as a calculated attempt by her political enemies to thwart her progress, repeating accusations of sabotage and injustice that have fueled criticism even from once loyal supporters of Henyard. Public outrage erupted during the public comment portion of the recent meeting, as locals openly questioned how they could continue to trust Henyard given the many scandals and unresolved concerns that have plagued her term. Their concerns are centered on concrete issues, and her explanations of a concerted attack are insufficient to allay them. Her dilemma is made worse by her apparent mismanagement of township resources, the disappearance of monies, and a leadership style that many believe is self-serving and polarizing. Her incapacity to forge bridges, a talent that many believe is crucial for any leader, further exacerbates her hostile. In addition to alienating the trustees, this strategy has caused a widening rift among the residents. While some firmly believe her rhetoric about standing up for the people against an unfair system, others see her as the cause of her own problems, citing the numerous scandals, poor decision-making, and lack of transparency as proof that she is unsuited to lead. People outside of her inner circle who used to support Henyard are now some of her most scathing critics. Unresolved accusations and a reluctance to encourage cooperation have combined to make it more. She finds it hard to remain credible, even among people who may understand her struggles. There is growing concern that the dysfunction in the township leadership is unsustainable and detrimental to the community's future. The atmosphere of mistrust surrounding the Henyard's administration has serious implications, as decisions that should advance the township's interests remain stuck in bureaucratic paralysis, while resources are wasted in political battles rather than being channeled toward resolving the township's many vital issues, such as the township's stalled insurance renewal, which impacts vital services for seniors, and the stakes are extremely high, and children are caught in the crossfire with no end in sight for Thoron Township. The ongoing deadlock and growing accusations indicate not only a leadership problem, but also a failure to put the needs of the community first. Residents are faced with difficult questions. Can the township afford to continue in this direction? If not, what steps need to be taken to reestablish order and confidence in its leadership?
Manipulation. Nobody likes being manipulated, and when you get here, you know that's exactly what's happening.
Residents of Thoron Township bear the true cost of the continuous political unrest, especially the elderly, who mostly depend on township services for necessities like transportation to dialysis treatments, grocery shopping, and doctor's appointments. The stakes are high for seniors who rely on these vital services, and many residents are feeling vulnerable and unsure of what the future holds because these services are currently in jeopardy. Devastating, and the current problem has caused a great deal of annoyance and disillusionment in the community. Residents stress that this issue goes beyond partisan politics and directly affects the quality of life for the most vulnerable groups in the township. Publicly, many have expressed their displeasure, calling the current situation disgraceful and casting doubt on the leadership's ability to handle it. They have stated that it is no longer only about political games, but also about lives. At a recent community gathering, a dejected resident asserted that the township leadership's obsession with political scheming and internal strife has caused these essential services to teeter on the verge of disintegrating at a time when unity and quick action are needed to obtain insurance and restore stability. These critics have been widely condemned for failing to put citizens' needs first. It's an obvious failure that puts the bureaucrats in charge of safeguard and serve the community while seniors in Thoron Township deal with increasing uncertainty. Many are demanding immediate action and accountability. Their demands are clear: less finger pointing, and more solutions to protect the services that guarantee their independence, health, and well-being without a resolution. In the near future, the persistent dysfunction could worsen the suffering endured by locals, placing an already vulnerable population in an even more difficult situation.
Need some action, somebody that's actually going to do their job. How about that? Somebody that's come in, work for the people, not themselves, and have pictures.
As if that weren't enough, the township's financial problems dominated the meeting as trustees argued over which bill should be paid first. Critics claim she has been prioritizing payments to her allies while neglecting crucial township expenses in an effort to trick the board into paying her bills. The meeting also made clear how deeply divided Henyard and the trustees are. Henyard rejected the charges, saying she was merely attempting to maintain the trust. According to one outraged faithful, afloat township residents voiced their disapproval during the meeting's public comment period, with some calling for Henyard to resign and others demanding that trustees be held accountable for the problems in the Henyard. Carmen Carlisle, a trustee, proposed a compromise to address the insurance crisis, but Henyard rejected the idea outright, snapping, "I'm not here to negotiate." This combative attitude has become a hallmark of Henyard's leadership style, and it's clear that it's not winning her any friends on the board. She is suing the Thoron Township Democratic Party outside of the boardroom, arguing that the caucus process that disqualified her from the ballot for the township supervisor election next year was unfair. According to Pinard State Senator Napoleon Harris, who chaired the caucus, she locked her supporters out of the venue, effectively preventing them from voting. The audience cheered the township employees' heartfelt call for unity, which highlighted the importance of the board's work for seniors and children. Henyard is still adamant about. She is arguing that her activities are about protecting democracy and allowing people to have their voices heard, and she is considering running as a write-in candidate if necessary. Harris has refuted these allegations, arguing that the procedure was fair and that the regulations were followed, despite her problematic past of lavish spending. The critics of Henyard use her financial decisions as evidence that she is unqualified to resign, claiming that her lawsuits are just another distraction from the real issues. Town of Plain Thoron, not to mention the Facebook situation involving Henyard's political committee and her now-defunct burger company, or the shocking revelations of her tax-subsidized excursions and undisclosed expenses, such as a concert that cost over 85,000 currency units. The doors are locked here, and a notice on the building indicates how long it will be closed. Neither residents nor staff are there, so it's clear that Henyard leadership has become a source of contention. The lights are currently out. The trustees left without approving the insurance renewal, the budget is still within limits, and the tax levy discussions ended in chaos on Friday. Despite the criticism of her attempt to organize a bingo night during the township's financial crisis, it became clear that nothing significant would be accomplished as the meeting progressed. However, there was a sign that said, "Okay, here I am," and they disappeared, leaving the fallout from this meeting. Residents have been quick to voice their opinions on social media. "This is the most dysfunctional leadership I've ever seen," one commenter said, adding that she doesn't need the trustees to obtain insurance while others suffer. That's merely an explanation she's making. Do you think Supervisor Henyard can turn things around, or do you think it's time for new leadership? Do you believe her claims of voter turnout? What's next for Thoron Township? If this meeting is any indication, the drama is just getting started. Suppressive measures, or is this another political will Henyard, and the trustees be able to cooperate, or will the dysfunction keep getting out of hand? What about the residents caught in the middle? Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next film. Please leave your thoughts in the space provided below. Until we meet again, thanks for watching Visual Vortex.